Howdy everyone, I am Alexandra Moore and I'm in group 17 and this is my first internship through TRIP at TotalEnergies. I worked in middle office as a trading risk control analyst this past spring on the gas desk, and I'll be interviewing for my second and third internship at the upcoming August board meeting. Throughout this PowerPoint, I will walk through the daily tasks I fulfill day to day, my key takeaways, and some skills that I learned and my overall experience at Total. So at a high level, my day consisted of three daily contributions: mark-to-market, option pricing check, and ethane daily risk. So every morning I validated the end of day marks that the traders would submit. I would refresh the inputs behind our option pricing and send that out to all of middle office. And I would produce and calculate the ethane daily risk for our ethane trader. These were my everyday routine contributions, but I also spent a lot of time shadowing different people in middle office, gas and power, different schedulers, or collaborating with other people on the floor. I'll spend most time on the ethane risk sheet because that was the part of my internship that I had the most learning and collaboration with my team and the traders. But I will start by walking you through what a full day actually looked like in my internship. Here is the daily flow start to finish of what I would do. First, I pulled data. I would import the end of day marks the trader submitted plus the external source prices I'd be checking them against. Then I would validate those trader marks against the consensus benchmark to make sure they line up with where the market actually is. Third, the option pricing check. I pulled the CME option marks and the interest rate, so every option in the book is priced on today's data and not yesterday's. With this information, I would send out a daily email to all of gas and power middle office. Next, ethane risk. I would calculate the prompt and the balance of month risk for our ethane deals each day so that our trader could compare middle office's view of total risk to what he saw on his end. And last, anything that breaches the threshold, I would communicate with the traders which marks needs to be revised. And I really enjoyed this task because this is where I got most of the time with front office, and a lot of the time the trader would sit down with me and explain why he priced the index this way or why it needs to be revised. And so for the first work stream, the mark-to-market validation, there are 4 steps. So after I would import the trader's gas marks, I would filter down to what indexes I would actually validate. So I would set aside and make a separate comment on any mark that carried no risk, any mark with a far dated maturity, way out on the curve, and any liquid index point. Then I would go into the threshold test. So I would take the active strip, whichever season we were currently trading in, summer, winter, and I would compare its weighted average index price against the benchmark index price. And then I would resolve. If the mark is within a threshold, it's accepted and moved into the book. And if it's outside the threshold, it would get resent back to the traders. And so that loop at the bottom of this slide is kind of the heart of the control. When a mark breaches, the trader gets notified, they review and resubmit, and then I revalidate that new mark against the benchmark. It doesn't just get waved through, it clears the test or it doesn't book. So to elaborate a little bit more, there are 2 seasonal strips in trading natural gas. So the winter strip runs November through March, and then the summer strip runs April through October. The active strip is simply whichever season the index is currently trading in. So the validation really has 2 moves. First is to filter, and at Total, our general rule for far out maturities was anything after the current seasonal strip and then the entirety of the next seasonal strip. And then indexes marked with no positional risk were also marked and set aside. And then I would take the weighted average test. And so I would take the weighted average of the active strips index price, and that's what I would put up against the benchmark. And why would I do a weighted average and not a simple average is because the months in a strip don't carry equal volume or equal exposure. So weighting reflects where the position actually is. So a heavily weighted month can't get masked by a quiet one. It's a more honest picture of the strip street price. So to continue, the benchmark that I keep referring to isn't just one price from one place. It's a consensus built from 5 independent sources. So Phoenix, which is a broker-derived mid prices, ICE for exchange settlement prices, NGX cleared for cleared North American gas and NGL prices, Skylight, which aggregates energy market marks, and Marquee, which is an independent consensus valuation as well. We pull from 5 sources instead of one because no single feed is reliable on its own. Any of them could be thin, outdated, or just wrong on a given day. So cross-checking across brokers, exchanges, and independent providers gives us a solid benchmark to check our marks with. And I would run the same weighted average comparison against each of them. If a trader's mark was within tolerance, it's accepted and booked, and the same escalation loop as before, just measured against a stronger consensus. And so my second work stream was keeping the option book current. So options are sensitive because their value depends on inputs that move constantly. So every morning I refresh the moving inputs behind option valuation, and so that the desk positions were always priced on the latest market data instead of an outdated price curve. And I would send this email to all of Gas and Power middle office every single day, and they would ensure that it was within their threshold as well. So the first input were the CME marks, the daily option settlement prices, and implied volatilities. That's what drives the volatility surface. And the second was interest rates that we use to discount our pricing. Both of these matter because an options value isn't just about where the underlying is today. It's about expected volatility and the time value of money out to expiry. If either of those inputs go stale, every option in the book is being valued on yesterday's assumptions. And so for my third work stream, which was the ethane daily risk sheet, I essentially built and maintained a daily Excel workbook that gave the ethane trader one clear view of his risk altogether. So the first is prompt risk, which is his exposure to the very next daily prompt settlement, the nearest pricing point on the curve. And the second is the balance of month or BOM risk, and that's the exposure across all the remaining pricing days in the current contract. And essentially why our trader wanted to use my Excel as kind of a checking tool is because ethane is traded and hedged monthly, but physical deliveries are settled on a daily prompt price. So as a result, the exact next day price isn't known until the daily index is published. And so each day I would pull all of our prices from our book and try and calculate the prompt and BOM risk to match whatever our trader was seeing on his end. To understand how I actually calculated the risk, you need the two legs of the position. So in our books, every deal had a market leg and a price leg. The market leg is the floating side. It's the volume that's still being priced off the daily prompt index, and it moves with the market every day, and it carries the open unhedged risk. So this is the part that the trader is actually exposed to. And then the price leg, which is the fixed side. That's the portion where the price is already locked in, and because it's settled, it carries no further exposure to the daily market moves. And the risk is simply the difference between the two. So as the month progresses and the more volume gets priced and locked in, that price leg grows and the floating market leg shrinks, and the net exposure winds down towards zero by the month end. And that single net delta calculation is what I surfaced every day as the prompt and the BOM risk numbers in the sheet. So as I conclude, I separated what I've taken away into 3 different buckets. And so on a technical side, I got comfortable with Excel, reconciling prices across multiple independent sources, and the inputs that drive option pricing. And then on the market side, I came out understanding NGL and ethane contract structure, the difference between prompt and BOM risk, mark-to-market discipline, and how volatility surface and rate curves feed a book. And then lastly, on the professional side, I was directly communicating with multiple traders, schedulers, other people on the middle office team. I was delivering under daily deadlines and owning a reoccurring deliverable that someone actually depended on, and that demanded a level of precision and attention to detail that I think is a real takeaway from the whole internship. I really enjoyed my time at Total. I got a lot of experience and exposure, and I'm really excited to see where I will go next.